Hello good people of YouTube and welcome to my hobby channel. Now I've got stacks of content lined up to make YouTube videos with, and I'm slowly kind of grinding my way through it. This was something that was lower down on my list, but I'm so excited I've bumped it to the top today, so I'm doing this unboxing video sooner than expected. Okay, so we have a little information leaflet from Alternative Armies. This was something that was sent to me by Alternative Armies. Thank you very much to Gavin. Some very beautiful miniatures that now form part of the Alternative Armies range, and here they are. I'm just going to move the box out of the way. And some of you might already be able to tell that these are dwarves, but they're not just any kind of random dwarf. There we are, beautifully wrapped, because there is a spear. So I'm just carefully going to unwrap these. I have to say the elastic bands are a really cool idea, because when delicate miniatures are wrapped up with sellotape, they can be difficult to get into, and I have in the past damaged miniatures that have been wrapped in sellotape. So yeah, big shout out to Gavin and Alternative Armies there for using elastic bands. That's really made it easy. Sorry, I am actually losing my train of thought now, because these dwarves are just so beautiful. I absolutely love them, and one reason why I'm really excited, I haven't got any other dwarves on my desk at the moment, but because, you know, I wanted to focus on these, but I'm going to have to do a scale comparison at the end of this unboxing video, because in my head I'm already thinking what maybe some of you are thinking as you watch me unbox and unbag these gorgeous miniatures. But that is lovely. I definitely want to turn him into a standard bearer. That's probably what he's meant to be, but yeah, I'm just thinking absolutely. That is beautiful. I have to admit, there aren't many unboxing videos that have me lost for words, but this one definitely has, because not only are these sculpts superb, these miniatures are taking me right back to my childhood and my misspent youth. It transports you back. I'm kind of in one of those moments right now where I'm looking at these models and I'm 10 or 12 or 14 again. Whilst I want to keep the focus of this unboxing video on Alternative Armies and this wonderful selection of dwarfs that they've just sent me, I can't escape the fact that picking up such high quality, beautifully sculpted and beautifully cast miniatures like this just takes me right back to, you know, that young teenager who was just in awe of stuff like this. So I'm back in the room. I've just had a cup of tea and calmed down a little. Tried to quell my excitement. These are brand new metal castings, so they're a bit shiny, and the detail is probably not showing up under the lights here very well. I am going to do a close-up of each miniature in turn, but just wanted to show you that this is what Gavin at Alternative Armies has very kindly sent me, free of charge, for me to do this video. and some subsequent painting videos. These are the Jez Goodwin Dwarf Adventurers from 1985. Now each dwarf is available individually. They're also available as an adventurers pack, and that's what I've got here, which is 13 dwarves, each one a character, and I'll now run through them one by one. So this is DW1, the Dwarf Adventurer. And this is how it arrived, beautifully cast. There's one or two feeds that just need trimming off, but that's no big deal. You can see there from the bottom of the shield to the base, there's a little feed that allows the metal to flow into all the detail. He's got lots of adventuring equipment on his back. As I said, brand new metal castings, very shiny, so the detail might be a little difficult to see, but I will be doing painting videos for these dwarves. And this is the second dwarf in the pack. This is DW2, Dwarf Axeman. Again, you can see a feed there from the tip of the axe blade to the handle. Easily cleaned off, and that is an absolutely beautiful miniature there of an armoured dwarf with an axe. So that's the Dwarf Axeman. And then this one is DW3, Dwarf with Hammer. And this is DW4, Dwarf Spearman. Again, another lovely pose there. Lots of movement. And you can see the determination on that dwarf's face. I'm looking forward to painting these. And this dwarf is DW5, Dwarf Hero. So he's armed with an axe and shield, but has a cloak. Again, just a lovely model that takes me all the way back to my teenage years. And this one, I think, is possibly my favourite out of the box set. This is DW6, the Black Dwarf. And that, I believe, is a raven perched on his shoulder. Absolutely lovely model, full of character. That, I'm sure, is going to be an absolute dream to paint, that one. So he appears to have his hand there holding a weapon which looks like it might be tucked up behind his cloak. And there is a very interesting shield design there, very reminiscent of the early Chaos shields that you got with a lot of pre-slaughter Citadel miniatures. So that is going to be really interesting to paint. Right, this is DW7, which is a Dwarf Scout. Again, another lovely sculpt. Lots of movement in that pose. That's really nice. And this is DW8, Dwarf Lord. That helmet is just awesome, with the ornate dragon resting on top. I think there are even some runes on his sword there. I mean, these sculpts are just full of the magic and the charm of their era. They really are. And they're timeless. Absolutely beautiful. Here we have a female dwarf. This is DW9, Dwarf Shield Maiden. Another lovely sculpt. Braided hair at the back in plaits. And interestingly, a female dwarf without a beard. DW10 V1 on the website, so I'm assuming that's version 1. There might be a different version. And this is a dwarf crossbowman. And that is another great sculpt. Plenty of arrows there for that one. Absolutely fantastic. Love it. Absolutely love it. Again, it looks like there might be a little bit of a feed from the brim of the hat there to the shoulder. That would be easy to clean up. And I might even do a video on that, on the cleanup process and the priming before I start painting. This is DW11, dwarf with arquebus. And that is another lovely miniature. And then here we have DW12, Dwarf Mercenary. Another sculpt packed with character. Lots of fun bits of detail to paint. Really is lovely. And I'm struggling to fit this one in. This is a dwarf guard, this one. DW13 dwarf guard with an immensely long spear, which, as I may have said before in this video, I'd be tempted to turn into some kind of standard. That is a lovely sculpt as well. The pose, the determination in that dwarf is clear to see. Just zoom in a bit and have a look at the detail on the body there and the shield. Really nice. First thing that I wanted to do was just do a scale lineup with some of the other dwarves that would have been available back in 1985, or that you would have had in your collection in 1985. So I've got a selection of pre-slaughter miniatures here. On the extreme left, we've got a dwarf guard, I think. This is from the Dwarf King's Court, which was a box set that was available from Citadel Miniatures in the early to mid 1980s. Next to that, we have the Jez Goodwin DW5 Dwarf Hero miniature. And then we've got the King from the Dwarf King's box set, and the Alternative Armies Jez Goodwin DW3 Dwarf with Hammer. On the green base here is my original Dwarf with Inferiority Complex model. I am actually in the process of restoring this and rebasing it. And I've had this model since I was a young teenager. The other side of that, we've got DW4 Dwarf Spearman, again a Jez Goodwin dwarf that's now owned by Alternative Armies. On the end here we've got the pre-slaughter version of Bugman's Dwarf Ranger. Now this is where it gets interesting. I will deal with scale creep in a separate video, but these dwarves do start to illustrate the point quite clearly. Alternative Armies advertise the Jez Goodwin Dwarf Adventurers as being 28mm. But in this lineup I've got in front of me here, all of these miniatures were once upon a time described as 25mm. When we get to the Citadel Bugman's Dwarf Ranger, this is the first edition version of these models, or this unit, we can clearly see that the dwarves are starting to grow. They're starting to become chunkier and more solid. And with this next lineup, we can begin to see the effects of scale creep taking place. So I've just squeezed in on the left hand side here the first edition pre-slaughter Bugman's Dwarf Ranger from Citadel Miniatures, which is where we left off with the last lineup. And shortly after these were released, the second edition version of Bugman's Dwarf Rangers, which was the edition that I ended up buying, was released, and they were on slot bases, which is why I've now elevated everything for the next scale comparison. Now here, I think this is DW1 Dwarf Adventurer, again the Jez Goodwin dwarf from Alternative Armies. And here, squashed in between that and the Black Dwarf, which is DW6 in the Jez Goodwin range, is a Lord of the Rings or Fellowship of the Rings Middle-earth dwarf that was sculpted and released by Games Workshop in the mid-1980s when they first had the license to produce Lord of the Rings miniatures. Not to be confused with the Lord of the Rings Middle-earth strategy battle games and Hobbit miniatures that Games Workshop have been producing under license in the last sort of 2.5 decades. This was an early range. So we've got the Black Dwarf here standing next to an early version of Games Workshop Plastic Dwarf. I'm not sure which edition of Warhammer this is from. I don't know if it's out of the Skull Pass box, but basically it's a monopose single piece plastic miniature. The kind of thing that Games Workshop used to produce for their starter paint sets and things like that. I picked this up in a job lot of bits, so I'm just trying to identify where it's from. On the other side here we've got the Dwarf Lord DW8 from the Jez Goodwin Dwarf Adventurers range, and on the other side of that we have a Dwarf Miner from an unboxing and building video that I did for Dwarves in my ongoing Warhammer the Old World project. So I'm mixing them up a little here for the benefit of everyone watching the video, and to show obviously as many of these lovely miniatures as I can in the scale lineup. On the left here we've got a Khazad-dûn dwarf. Next to that we have DW7 Dwarf Scout, I think, which is the Jez Goodwin sculpt from the range that Alternative Armies have kindly sent me. Now I've got a Dwarf Warrior there, again an original LOTR metal from the early 2000s, expanding on the film, depicting a dwarf that never actually appeared. Next to that, I don't know if this is DW2 Dwarf Axeman, I think it might be. And then here we have a Lord of the Rings Dwarf Ranger or Dwarf Warrior with bow. Again, this is a metal miniature from the early 2000s, sculpted to expand on the range of miniatures that complemented the movie. So I think this is the Dwarf Mercenary here, DW12, and right on the end here we have one version, I'm not sure which version, but one version of Gimli. It might be the Fellowship version, but again, I'll be doing lots of videos on my Lord of the Rings collections, both from the early 1980s and the current film franchise that we love and enjoy. We've got a Foundry Dwarf there on the extreme left, and that is next to the Jez Goodwin Dwarf Shield Maiden, that's DW9. In between the Dwarf Shield Maiden and the Jez Goodwin DW10 version 1 Dwarf Crossbowman there in the middle, we have an Oathmark Dwarf Infantry. Now here we've got the DW11 Jez Goodwin Dwarf with Arquebus, and I've got that next to a Fireforge Dwarf Arquebusier from their Stone Realms range. And finally, on the extreme right here, there is a Mantic Dwarf. To finish up, I thought I would compare these dwarves with some humans as well. So I've got a pre-slaughter fighter over here, obviously based on the idea of a crusader. I think when I played Dungeons and Dragons back in the day, that was probably some sort of paladin. Then one of the Jez Goodwin dwarfs is slipped in between him and this fighter here. We've got DW13, which is the dwarf guard there in the middle with that very long spear, and next to him I've put a Fireforge foot knight, just to give you some idea how these dwarves stack up against the modern plastic medieval infantry that is currently available on the market. Another dwarf here, I think this might be the dwarf mercenary from the Jez Goodwin Dwarf Adventurers range, and here is a Victrix foot knight or a foot sergeant, can't remember which, from their 28mm medieval warriors range. As I may have said earlier, Gavin from Alternative Armies was kind enough to send me this pack of Jez Goodwin Dwarf Adventurers, free of charge for me to review and feature in my YouTube dwarf videos. This is not the last that you will see of these dwarves, this is just the beginning. I will be doing painting videos, I'll be doing more scale comparisons, and I will be basing these guys up so that they could be used not just in role-playing games or as a war band, but also sprinkled among a variety of different troops. I think these are absolutely superb models. I would absolutely love to get hold of some more of these. If you're interested in any of these dwarves, you can buy them individually or as an adventuring pack from the Alternative Armies website. I'll put a link in the description to this video down below. Please check that out. I hope you found this video interesting and useful. If you did, please smash that like button. Please subscribe to my channel for more videos like this, and please check out my other videos if you haven't already. If you'd like to leave a comment, please do, but please keep those comments kind and respectful. More than anything though, take care of yourselves, and I'll see you in the next one.